Welcome to the Career Ready podcast. Learn about resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn, interviewing, and all the things you need to be career ready with the Career Services Center at College of DuPage. I'm one of your hosts, Rebecca Harrington. Later in today's episode, I'm going to lead the conversation talking about a different way to job search by company and industry.
And I'm your other host, Jordan Rembrecht. I'm going to start our episode today by sharing some information about a great resource that we have available, which is Chaps Get Hired. So over the years, we've talked about our electronic job board, Chaps Get Hired, and with this season's focus being on the job search, what better time to recap some of those features that it offers. For those who aren't familiar, Chaps Get Hired is a free job board specific to the College of DuPage community. Employers can use this platform to post their positions for students, alumni, and community members of DuPage County to view and apply for. It's a great way to discover a variety of local opportunities such as part-time, internships, seasonal, and full-time roles. Within the My Schools Jobs tab, there are a couple different ways to search for positions as you're doing a targeted job search. So one way is searching by keyword. This is where you can plug in a specific search term to yield results. So if there's a local employer that you're interested in, you can search by that company name to see if they have any open positions posted on that job board. Another way that you can search is by filtering on job targets. So using the advanced search feature, you can narrow down and select different industries that you're interested in. This will help you narrow down your results to only include companies that have identified with that industry. Both of these are great ways to do a targeted job search by narrowing down your parameters to get to a specific company or industry, which is going to fall into our conversation today.
I was just going to say, thank you for the lead out.
Yeah.
I love it.
Speaking more broadly to Get Hired, just like other job boards, it allows you to search by job type, major, location, so you're able to customize your search even more. And for our listeners who don't attend College of DuPage or live in the DuPage County area, I do recommend seeing if your local school or community offers a job board so that you can find positions in your target geographic area.
I love that point. That's so important. Like, I never had thought about that until I started to work here. Mm-hmm. You know, you think of Indeed, we think of all the big job boards, LinkedIn, but your local community colleges will often have a local job board. And those jobs are maybe for, sometimes it can be big companies, but it often can also be maybe smaller local employers that don't advertise their jobs other places. Also, your resume, your application is much more likely to be seen if you're applying through that local job board.
Absolutely. I help go on Chaps Get Hired every day and review employers and jobs postings. And it's exciting to see all the activity drumming up in the community. And I always point students here because they do have an advantage. When you have these local employers who want to hire from our community, what better way to connect each other?
And, you know, it's not, sometimes it's going on a website, but other times it's like email your resume to Maria at, localcompany.com, it's such a more personal process than we see, with the bigger job boards out there. So yeah, awesome. Thank you for that. So let's kind of dive in a little bit more. You heard Jordan mention narrowing things down by companies and industries. And I think we don't often think about that when we're doing a job search. Most people start their job search by typing in titles into a job board, marketing assistant, IT support, lab technician. But what if we flipped that? What if instead of looking for jobs, we started by looking for companies and industries? It's one of the smartest ways to find opportunities that you might never see in a regular job title search. So we've talked about this before on the podcast. So many jobs, like 70% of jobs, like a majority percent of jobs are found through networking or referrals, not on job boards. Not to say that the jobs aren't posted on the job boards, but so oftentimes when someone is looking for someone to hire, the first thing they're going to do is see if anyone at their own company or someone that in their company knows somebody that would be a good fit for that job. And so, when you find organizations that interest you, instead of looking for the job title, if you're looking for a company, you could start connecting with the people at that company. Maybe you already know people that work at that company, or someone you know knows somebody at that company. So then when a role comes up, they'll think of you, right? And so then you find out about those kind of hidden jobs, right, before they even become available. So again, we're talking about identifying companies so that first of all, you're going to maybe find opportunities that you wouldn't find just by looking for the title. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. but it's also about identifying people you can network with at those companies so that you get access to those jobs even before they're posted. And it's also a way just to help you target your applications. I mean, how many times, Jordan, have you had people come in and they're like, I've sent 100 resumes?
Very often.
Yeah. And I haven't heard back from any of them, right? So this, instead of sending out, 50 generic resumes, send 10 tailored ones that show you get the mission, the culture, and the industry trends, like that show that you're really interested in that company. So let's start by talking about how to research industries. So deciding on what industry you want to work in can make the job search easier, can make that company search easier. With many careers, you can choose what industry you want to work in. For example, if you're in accounting or marketing or IT or HR, or if you studied in the humanities, you can work in almost any industry. Some are a little more challenging. For example, if you're in nursing, you're likely to be in healthcare, but even within healthcare, that's a large industry with a lot of sub-industries. So you have to decide, do you want to work in a hospital? Do you want to work in a surgery center or a nursing home? So again, if I'm in marketing, I could be working, in higher education. I could be working in the accounting field. I could be working in the movie industry. That's what we mean by industry, right? There's so many choices out there. So when we do a search for an industry, there's a couple tools that can be helpful to us. We love ONET. We've talked about ONET on this podcast before. That's a website. You can just do ONET and you'll find it. And that's the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And then they also have another website called the Occupational Outlook Handbook. What I love about it is that you can it will literally give you a list of industries and information about them along with careers in that area. But what's also nice is it'll let you know if those are growing industries. So they'll actually have like a sun icon on them, that kind of show like, ooh, it's growing. So things like healthcare, green energy, right, logistics, tech services, education, those are all seeing steady growth. So if you're looking you're like, well, where's an industry where I can get hired? That might be something to think about. But of course, you also want to find something that you're interested in as well. Make sure that you're reading the news, right? Looking on websites, looking in apps, look at the business sections, local economic reports, or even LinkedIn's top companies can reveal what industries are hiring and why. And of course, pay attention to your region. What's hot in one region may not be hot in another. So for example, in the Midwest, there's a lot more manufacturing. If you want to be in the movies, you got to go to LA. I remember I met with a student once who wanted to work in forestry. And I'm like, well, you do know you'll probably have to move. And he's like, yes, I understand.
Understandable.
We have forests here, but not really probably the kind of forest you want. Right. So, it can depend like what you want to do. And then once you find an industry you like, you want to learn its language. What roles exist, what skills are in demand, what challenges it faces. And not only will this help you understand if this is an industry you want to work in, but it also then helps you tailor your resume and tailor what you talk about in your interview. And I wanted to just stop for a second here and talk with you, Jordan, because I think we've both had work history where we've worked in different industries, doing the same job or similar jobs, but working in different industries. So what do you think about why does industry matter? And how can you, I don't know, how do you find one that you're interested in?
Sure. I think you really got to do your research. What I've learned from my own personal experience, like you mentioned, doing the same job at different companies, both HR, recruiting, but it could look different, with different companies and different industries. So really, the more you learn, the more you know about the different industries, you get to know their unique characteristics, you get to learn their nuances, and then learn too to see if it's a fit. I think it'll help you feel a little bit more prepared. It'll help kind of match too with, what your passions are, what your interests are, and really just feel more confident, more prepared when you go into that application process or going into starting a new job because you have a little bit more backstory and knowledge on kind of what to expect going forward.
Yeah, I remember, I started my career working in the accounting industry in HR, and that was very interesting. There was a lot of money
Sure.
They send you on a lot more trips. There's a lot of stuff, but it was also very fast paced and there was a lot going on. And then I was in payroll industry. So companies that process payrolls and HR, and again, that's like has its own laws, right? And all the things around it. And then I worked in the jewelry industry, which was super interesting because I got to buy a lot of jewelry, which was also maybe a negative.
Maybe a negative for you.
Yeah. But also more volatile as far as layoffs, compared to those other two industries. And then now I'm in higher education, which is by far my favorite. Like now I feel like I'm home, and I think when I think back, I always kind of wanted to work in education. And I'm not saying that I regret working in those other industries, but I think if I had taken a little time at the beginning and really kind of explored like, well, okay, could you work in that industry? How could you work in that industry? And maybe I would have gotten here sooner,
Or discovered opportunities that you didn't think about initially.
Yes. See, so that's the other thing, it's like what jobs are called, it can be different depending on the industry. It can be different depending on the company. So I know we'll get to that. I have that coming up, but let's move on. So we've got maybe an industry or a couple industries, right, that we're thinking about. Then let's talk about how to find companies in those industries. So you might be looking for small local businesses or large national organizations or something in the middle. And again, only you can know, right, which of those you want. So when we talk about internships and the importance of that, when we talk about doing informational interviews, like all of those things are to help you figure out, do I like working for a large organization or do I want something smaller? And so having that industry in mind is going to help you. So you can just do even just like a regular internet search, search by industry and location. So something like marketing firms near me, right, or near my town, manufacturing companies in my county, nonprofits in, the Chicago area working with youth. And then you'll get results. You might get Yelp results. You might just get map results. And then you can start looking at those companies and seeing what you can learn about them. Maybe have some size filters in there for small business or startups. Maybe you're looking for Fortune 500 companies. You can use quotation marks to find exact phrases. You can use minus signs to remove results. So for example, maybe I want to look for, quote, graphic design agency, but maybe I don't want to do freelance work. So I might do graphic design agency minus freelance. By the way, I am going to put in the show notes some of these examples of how you can do searches because I know I'm just reading them and I don't want you to feel like you have to take notes out there. So I'll put them in the show notes. Okay. We can also look at directories and associations. So industry groups often list members. So for example, the American Library Association, would have a list of libraries, or Illinois Technology Association is going to have a list of technology companies. Even chambers of commerce are going to have directories of local businesses. As I mentioned, the Maps apps are great just to look at companies. Okay. Jordan, I just have to mention this. For some reason last night, my husband, he started looking on just Apple Maps and was like, why are there companies in our neighborhood? I'm guessing they're like home businesses.
I've noticed that too.
Okay. It's starting to show up now. Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, anyways, if you just look on maps nearby, you'll find companies that you can...
Maybe closer than you think.
Maybe closer than you think. But anyways, that'll help you visually explore. And I think sometimes too, that makes it seem exciting because you're like, oh, there's a lot of places nearby me. And again, it can sound like a lot, I know, but even if you just spend 15 minutes using these tools, you're going to end up with a targeted list of employers that you can do more research on. And, maybe pick 10 to 20 organizations where, these seem like places you'd be really interested in, and then do some more research on them. Look at them on LinkedIn. Look them up on Indeed. Look them up on Glassdoor, which is almost like a Yelp review website for companies. What's the size, their growth, their culture. Look at their website. Look at their mission statements. Look at their careers page to see what kind of jobs they have. And really, some smaller companies maybe only post their opportunities there. And make sure that you're adding those local employers because I think there's often more there than we think. And then keep notes, right, on their mission, their values, ones that you really connect with. I think especially the young generations today, we want companies that we care about, that are doing work that we care about, right? So take a look at that. This is kind of what we were talking about earlier. Pay attention to job titles. So oftentimes what we think are the job titles we're looking for are actually called something totally different. Have you noticed that? Like in HR, like they call
100%.
jobs like weird names. You're like, what is that?
I went from being talent operations to early career to talent acquisition. Absolutely. All same job, but just different titles.
So going back to the very first thing that we're talking about in this section, it's like if you went and just Googled like talent acquisition or recruiter, you're not going to get
the same results.
Yeah. So sometimes, again, looking for the company that you want, then you'll just naturally see what those different job titles are. Yeah. And then we shift, right? So we find these companies that we're interested in. Not only are you going to find out those job titles, but you can also then look to see, are there contacts you could reach out to? Maybe alumni that also went to your school, maybe, other people on LinkedIn, maybe your internship supervisor knows somebody that works at that company or knows somebody that works at that company, right? Knows somebody that knows somebody, right? The idea is, or you can also see if these companies have internship programs, early career paths. So this is kind of your personal opportunity tracker, right? You're not just waiting for postings, you're proactively managing your job search. And I've said a lot of things. What are your thoughts about this idea of like looking for companies instead of just relying on job boards?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Even my most recent job search coming here at College DuPage, I was looking at the College DuPage career site for some time. I'm not going to lie. It's not every day career services specialist roles are posted. So.
No, it is not. So yeah.
I think that kind of goes into my point here is that, I want this to be encouraging this to be part of a routine. I think
love it.
Looking just once at a company website, I don't want you to ever write anyone off if you don't see that dream opportunity right away. So, make note of this, check back regularly, check back on social media, the careers website, because you never really know when the opportunity is going to be posted, especially knowing, too, that companies and industries, they hire at different times of the year. So just being ready and being prepared and not just writing it off after just taking one glance and not seeing what you're looking for.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's really important. I think, like you said, following them, saving the bookmarking them and make it a routine that every few weeks, every month or so, you're going to go and check out that company. Other things then is connecting with people on LinkedIn that are working at that company that you have any kind of connection with. Engage with posts that the company is leaving, right? Not just that they're making on LinkedIn, for example, or the people that work there in the departments, maybe engage with their posts, not just likes, but actually like leaving a comment on it. And really, this is something we know is scary, but it's scary for me, but we have to do it, which is reach out to alumni or staff that is either in the area you're looking to work, or again, you have some sort of connection with. And especially if you're a student, don't be scared to do this. Just send them a message, right? Hi, I'm a student at this college exploring careers in this industry. I saw that you work at this company. Would you be open to a quick 15-minute conversation about what you do? You're not asking for a job. You're not asking for anything special other than just a super quick conversation. Now, this says 15 minutes. We often say 20 minutes, but whatever. Just a quick conversation. And then from that, sometimes they don't even know that they want to hire an intern until they meet you.
Sure.
And then they're like, ooh. And so, these short chats can lead to referrals, internships, insights that you would never get from just looking at a job board. Yeah. So instead of asking who's hiring, ask who's doing work I admire, right? What industries, what companies do I admire? That shift from searching jobs to searching companies and industries can open up doors that fit your interests, your values, and your future goals.
Thanks to all of our listeners for joining us today. We hope you feel better prepared to search for opportunities by researching companies and industries. There was no listener question in today's episode, but if you have a question you want to hear answered in a future episode, you can submit it to careerpodcast@cod.edu. Join us for our next episode for more information to help you be career ready.